I had a boss that said, you're never gonna be successful. I bought my own jet airplane for $7 million. What I realized that no matter what I achieved, it wasn't enough. I was probably functionally depressed for about a year or so. And remember, it was 2018, and I ended up owing a lot of tax. Almost $1 million. I met an accountant. He's like, Brad, I could help you reduce your tax legally to zero.
Just Say Your Podcast.
Got Brad Sumrock on the episode today. Brad, thank you so much for joining us, dude. Really appreciate it. I'd want to do an intro, but I think I couldn't do as good a job as you can. So if you don't mind, just introducing yourself to our viewers, our audience.
Yeah, for sure. So Brad Sumrock. Let's see. I'll just start by saying, I've been investing in apartment buildings. That's my specialty for 24 years. But I never thought I would be an apartment investor if you would have asked me like 30 years ago, because I grew up in a traditional family with my mom staying at home and dad working, and my dad never finished engineering school. So they encouraged me to study hard, get good grades, become an engineer, and I did that. I went 14 years in corporate America, MBA, tried climbing the ladder, and just probably would have still been in middle management. Like I never really got to the point that I wanted to get to, and got into real estate. And as we continue the conversation, I'll share how I got into real estate. But I've done over 11,000 apartment units after starting 24 years ago. But what I'm most proud of is when I launched my event and education company, and I've helped, as you know, because you've worked with so many of my current and former students or mentees, I've helped so many people get into the apartment investing business.
Yes, you have.
And I'm more proud of that because they're like all over the country, and some of them are doing extremely well and have built big vertically integrated companies, and others have simply just reduced their taxes or quit their jobs or paid for their dream home and stuff like that. But what really turns me on is making impact, and I could do that. When you buy a building, you could change the lives of the residents. You make it cleaner and safer, and a better place to live. And when you have investors, you could impact them. But when you could share with, on a Zoom meeting or at a conference in front of many, many people, and inspire and motivate them to take action, it does more for me actually than like a building puts money in your bank. And helping other people does something with my heart and soul. So that's my intro, and I could talk for days about that. Yeah,
for sure. Brad, dude, so a question that pops in my mind about your story, which I know you've got a great story, and yes, it's been cool to work with a lot of your mentees, people who have gone through your program, your training. Did you expect it when you started? Did you expect it to just grow like that? What
did I expect it? No. Am I surprised? No. Honestly, I didn't expect it. I got started in real estate by going to a real estate investing seminar. So that's how I started. Like I had no experience whatsoever, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, knew I had to learn something different than what I learned, which was going to school and getting a job. And so I started in 2001. I went to a seminar. I hired a mentor, always had a coach. When I wanted to do my own speaking events, I hired a speaking coach, right? So like to me, mentorship is just part of my DNA. I don't just preach mentorship. I have mentors. I've invested millions of dollars in mentors and coaches and masterminds. Perhaps the ultimate human coach is Tony Robbins. Like he's probably impacted more people's lives than any one other person in the domain of like human performance and coaching. And I was in Tony's ecosystem and his top mastermind for many, many, many years. And so he inspired me. And, so I decided like, I'm going to be, and I used to call myself, I'm going to be like a mini Tony Robbins for people in apartment investing, but it got bigger than I ever thought it would.
Brad, what sparked that in you? Did you always have like, were you always an ambitious, I don't know, kid, self-motivated kid growing up? But what sparked that, hey, I'm in this corporate America job. I don't see myself here. I'm going to go after something bigger for myself.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the way I would say that is when I was a boy and in grade school and then going through high school, honestly, I shined. Like I was extroverted. I always raised my hand.
Yeah.
Whenever I had a chance to speak in class, I would speak.
Yeah.
We would have, I was just always excited about that. And then when I went to university and studied engineering, I never raised my hand. I never wanted to be called on. I lost my confidence.
Dude, that's so.
And it's
so
crazy,
strange.
yeah. So looking back, that should have been a sign that like maybe I'm pursuing the wrong career
not on the
path,
right path.
right?
Yep.
And so through corporate America, I gradually pivoted from a desk job doing engineering work to a sales job working with people.
Yep.
And I shined a little bit better in corporate America when I was working with people.
Yeah.
And, because what is sales? It's solving people's problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you have a product or a service that can solve somebody's problem.
100%.
But I became more of who I was.
Yeah.
But then the challenge was I'm selling something I don't believe in, or I have a boss that I can't stand, or that's a jerk to me. So I didn't have that full alignment. And it wasn't until I got into real estate and I started winning and I started understanding it, I started doing it, I started winning in it, and I had this full alignment of like, wow, I can do this, it works, I'm good at it, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I just came like I was like a late bloomer again, but
Right.
but that was who I was, like from grade school. But I went through probably a 15-year period where I just, looking back, I was just in the wrong field.
Yeah.
And I wasn't excited about what I was doing.
You had this feeling that you could be doing something more, something better, maybe.
Was there something that happened that like sparked that, or was there an itch that you just hadn't scratched for a long time?
Well, here's what's funny. When I first started doing speaking about real estate, I took a class called public speaking for the chicken-hearted because I had lost, like through my, like I was mediocre in corporate America too. Like I had a boss that said, you're never going to be successful.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, why not?
Yeah.
And he said, well, Brad, every day you come into work on time and I'm here an hour before you arrive. And every day you leave on time and I'm here an hour after you go home.
Yeah.
And every day you go out to lunch and I notice you're gone longer than an hour. And I pack my lunch and work through lunch. And you have 3 weeks of paid vacation and you take every single day. And I'm thinking, of course. And he's like, and that's why you're never going to amount to anything. Well, this guy's probably still making, in today's dollars, he's making a good living, $250 a year or whatever.
Sure.
But I made tens of millions of dollars pursuing what I did.
Right. Yeah.
So I can't remember what your question was, but I think what I just shared with you related to what your question was.
Yeah. More, maybe that was, for some, that would have probably said, well, shit, okay, well, sure, I'll take your advice. But for you, it motivated you to do something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and you asked me if something happened.
Yeah.
Well, there were probably three things that happened.
Okay.
One is I got, when I was in corporate sales, selling software, I sold the second biggest deal in company history.
Yeah.
6 months later, I got fired. Not laid off, fired. And I'm like, how could you fire me? And they're like, well, you have no pipeline.
Yep.
And, I had a healthy base salary as well.
Right.
So, like, they were looking at me now as like, here's a guy that brought in a big deal. I got a commission check. He got rewarded for it. 6 months later, I'm not closing anything. I had a quota.
Yeah.
And in software sales, if you don't meet your quota like 2 quarters in a row, you're pretty much out the door.
Yeah.
So I got fired, and then I'm like, okay, shit, I can't let this happen again, right?
Yeah.
And then I had another job after that, and I remember my boss, the one I just told you about, I had a quota, and it was the end of the year, and I'm taking my vacation over Christmas and New Year's. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm on vacation. He goes, you're behind on your quota. You're not taking vacation.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, it's New Year's.
Yeah.
It's
You
family
know,
time. Yeah.
so
Vacation
like,
time.
I'm like, I was taught that if you get a good job and you work hard and you get multiple degrees, that's the path to financial freedom, and it's not for me.
Yeah.
So like, I had multiple things happen in corporate America that I just knew that I needed a different path, but I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And then I found real estate.
Yeah.
Just so funny because it's how many of the people that are, including your students in the space, right? They go out and they build these amazing careers and go through school. And it's funny, with all the guests that we've had on, that's been a hot topic of conversation. They went through school, didn't love what they were doing in their day job, and they were like, all right, I'm going to jump into multifamily commercial real estate, whatever you want to call it. And it's funny that you have doctors, lawyers, all these people that have these advanced degrees. These roads lead back to commercial real estate, right?
For so many people, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's what is interesting, Brad, and what I caught, what stuck with me about you. You were here not too long ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, right? And you talked about how much you've invested in yourself, right? And people don't realize, some people don't want to invest, $25 into a book, right? That will ultimately could have an ROI for them, of whatever, millions of dollars, something, right? An idea that gives them much more. Not a lot of people are willing to do that, and you have. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan, and I think you said you were in his ecosystem.
I was.
Um,
But not just his.
Right.
Like I've been in I've had lots of mentors.
Yeah.
Like and I'm sorry I interrupted, but I probably invested almost $2 million over the last 25 years in various mentorships, masterminds, coaches, communities, like a lot of money.
yeah, that is a lot of money. More than,
Yeah, sometimes
most-
I'm like that I need to do all of it, but I'm being honest. Like, and right now I've pared it down to, very, very few.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're still in the positive on that investment.
Well,
overall,
look,
right?
I mean, I just have this belief that we always have to be growing. We always, doesn't matter how much you accomplish, and just even when it comes to investing or anything in life, when somebody, some people actually believe they have a Midas touch.
Mhm.
And I just stay away from those people because if they don't have the Midas touch, they're just lucky. If they get lucky enough times and the market is with them enough times, then they believe they have the Midas touch. But eventually, if you're investing long enough or you're in business long enough, you're going to have some bumps in the road. You're going to have some
course.
challenges.
Yep. Yeah. Speaking of, right, I mean, we know and we understand and we know what's happened over the last couple of years in our industry in multifamily, right? How have you navigated that? It's been challenging for everybody.
Yeah, the best that I can, and I could say like, one deal right here in Dallas, we bought in 2021 on a 3-year loan with, the 1+1 year extension. And so when the end of year 3 came, we were able to work out a 1-year extension with a lender.
Yeah.
And then at the end of year 4, the lender didn't want to extend, but luckily we were already working on another plan, and we did a cash neutral refinance, which is a pretty good scenario considering values have went down.
Yes.
Yep. So I was able to do that on 2 or 3 deals. There's one that we sold for a loss, my first loss in literally 24 years of being in the business. And there's some that I've sold for gains. And then one I did a cash out refinance. It wasn't a huge cash out refinance, but it was a deal here in Euless. And I bought it in 2022 and we did a cash out refi. It wasn't like a huge, like returning everybody's equity, but people got money out of the deal.
Right.
And so we were able, most of these deals, we were able to be cash neutral, get a little cash out. One deal we lost some money. So I can't get on stage anymore and say I never lost investors' money.
Yeah.
But again, like I remember I said that in 2019, and Kenny McElroy was in the back of the room, and Kenny's a buddy of mine, the rich dad guy that does all the deals and wrote all the books with Robert Kiyosaki. And he's like, Brad, don't say that. You lose credibility. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, anyone that has been in real estate long enough is going to lose money. So if you say you never lose money, people aren't going to believe you. And I'm like, well, it's true.
What do you want me to lie? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, right? I mean, unfortunately, but it's part of being in the game.
Yeah, and the other thing is I never stopped doing my conferences.
Right.
Like, and many people that are in my, like, what I would say so-called competitors, and I don't mean that derogatorily, like, but so many of those people stopped doing their conferences and their events, and they just, like, look, we all got, kicked in the groin a little bit.
Right. Yep.
And I used to have 500-600 people at my events, and one of the events I did not so long ago, I had 60 people.
Right.
And that's not a reflection on me. It's a reflection of, multifamily was the darling asset class from 2012 to 2022.
Yes, it was.
And then it was until it wasn't. And then from 23 until arguably the middle of 25, people didn't want anything to do with multifamily.
Yep.
So, but I strategically said, I'm never going to stop doing what I'm doing because, and look, I was going to say it's part of who I am and it's part of my identity, but that's not accurate. Like, that's a choice if it's part of who I am and what I'm so much deeper than an apartment investor, right? As a human being. Yep. But, the reality is it's like, this is what I'm known for. I believe there's always a way to win. And so I kept doing what I was doing and, just on a smaller scale and never stopped being an ambassador and committed to the industry. Like I'm committed to the industry. I'm committed to the people that want to learn. I'm committed to the people in my community. I'm committed to the properties that I own to do the best I can. So like, what am I going to do? Like like I don't have to do conferences anymore. I could be 100% retired. I've made enough money. I moved from Dallas to Miami Beach, as you know. I don't own property there. I live in a beautiful place and live in paradise. But, I still do the conferences. I still do the events. I just bought a deal in February, and I have another one that's going to close in April. Like, so I'm active in the business.
Yeah.
You mentioned
for the love of the game.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned that, people are what really bring that fulfillment after being successful for 20 plus years in the business. What scratches that itch now? Is it seems people succeed?
The same. Like I'm here in Dallas because I'm doing a conference. You guys are going to be there,
Yep.
and most of the people in the room are going to be people that are new to the industry, that are excited about the industry, that align with my belief that now is a great time to be underwriting deals and making offers. We're at the bottom of the market, and if a fraction of those people take action and move the needle in their lives financially, like that does something for my heart and soul. Yeah. And then the other side of the coin, it's like, I believe God has us here for a reason and a purpose. Whether you believe in God or not, like I do, but, any self-help book I read, it's like a man needs a purpose.
Right. Yep.
So like if I didn't do this, then I would need to find something else that gives me purpose.
Yeah.
And I could, like I don't get paid to change people's lives in the gym, but I motivate like my community to live healthy, and I bring in nutritionists and fitness trainers to some of my conferences,
I want to get into that.
Like seriously, I would find something that gives me purpose.
Yeah.
But what I realize is no matter whatever, even that idea, if you go high level, not the CRM company, that was a plug for Go High Level, but if you go upstream from helping people make money, helping people retire, helping people get in shape, helping people have a better life. It all comes down to helping people.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
There's-
think that's what God wants me to do here on this planet.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. It's amazing to be aligned with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's there is something, beautiful about helping people, especially when you don't have to. Yeah, and people notice that and they gravitate towards that. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful in your training and programs, all that stuff. Brad, dude, so who was when did you have the kind of the moment where you were like, holy shit, I can't believe I just got this, huge investor, or, I don't know, did you have that moment where you were like, man, I'm kind of doing big things here?
Yeah.
You mentioned Robert Kiyosaki,
Yeah. Well, I think I'll tell you what clicked with me is in 20 it was in 2018.
Yeah.
And I want to be as accurate as I can, but the tax year is you like right now we're in 2026, and so the 2025 tax return will be due in 2026, right? So I remember it was 2018, and I ended up owing a lot of tax, almost $1 million, and I met an accountant that is now my CPA, and he's like, Brad, I could help you reduce your tax legally to zero. And so I started working with him. I still work with him. And, what he said was, you need, so imagine this, and I'll explain this, and I'm sure you understand this. But when you have earned income, you pay tax on it.
Yep.
Okay. But if you have earned income and you invest it into buildings, you get depreciation.
Yep.
And then if you're a qualified real estate professional, that depreciation, which is a passive loss, it can now offset earned income. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. But one of them is being a qualified real estate professional on your tax status. So I qualify for that. So he's like, Brad, you're making all this money over here in earned income, from your mentoring and mastermind. And then every time you sell a deal, you have capital gains income. So that's taxable. And so like my income tax in say 2017 or 18 was going to be over $1 million.
Yeah.
And he goes, if you just simply invested that into buildings, then you could deduct it. And then at the same time, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was passed in 2017 that gave us bonus depreciation. So, and so I remember I bought a deal in 2018, and I love syndicating deals with other people's money. But I was only putting in 100, 200K into these syndications, and then I start making millions of earned income.
Yeah.
So in 2018, I put like $3 million of my own money into one deal.
Yeah.
And I got a huge tax write-off. And then in 2019, I did the same. And then 2020, I did the same. And these deals all knocked it out of the park. I mean, one of the deals I bought basically with my own money for $13 million and sold it 2.5 years later for $20 million. And like
The golden age of multifamily.
and then more and more people just, it became a flywheel.
Yeah.
So like I started doing my own events and conferences in 2013, and they started small. And, when I first started, I didn't have any mentees or students. And then I had 8, then I had 12, then I had 17, and then as I was winning more and they were winning more, then more people would come to my events.
Yeah.
And it just became a flywheel. And then when I needed investors, I had all these people that came to my events and they wanted to invest with me too. So like it just became this machine. And so I think like right around 2018, 2019 was, have you heard of like the Nike stripe or the hockey stick effect, right?
Yeah.
Like I was growing, but I was growing kind of linearly.
Right.
But in 2017 to 18, it took off. I started doing bigger deals, reinvesting money, not paying taxes. Those deals went up in value. I'm making more money, not paying any taxes, reinvesting it. Those deals went up in value.
Yeah.
And fortunately, as luck would have it, I got out of a lot of these deals before 2022. I also bought deals in 2021 and 2022 that I just shared with you how I'm handling some of those deals.
Yep.
But I got in and out of a lot of deals, and it happened in like they say, when you see success, you see the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
So I believe like it took me 19 to 20 years to get there, but between 2018 and 2022, man, that was like
was it.
Things skyrocketed,
Yeah.
like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm always
like
interested.
you asked me when I walked in here and I sold it, but like I bought like my own jet airplane for $7 million.
Yeah.
Like, and I never saw that coming, but like
Yeah.
I was making a lot of money,
Yeah.
and helping a lot of people, and I don't regret buying that jet. How many like I don't honestly
shit.
looking
Me
back,
too,
I don't even know. Like I don't even
I
need
want a
it.
PJ.
But it's like how many people in their lifetime could say they owned a jet?
Yep.
And
Sumrock
actually
Air.
owned it.
Sumrock Air.
Yeah.
I
Sumrock
like-
Air.
I was going to ask, I'm always interested, when people go through this rapid success cycle, there's, of course, right? At some point you look back and you reflect and you go, okay, it's time to make a big boy purchase or a fun purchase, right?
Yeah.
Was that the big fun purchase that you made
Well,
was the jet,
the
or
first
was there
one was
another?
a beach house.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the next one was a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And then the next one was a jet.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Not much left after that, right?
Brad,
Yeah, well, that was how. Then there was a downturn, but fortunately, I was, a good steward of my money and my investments. So, I on paper, some of my deals are worth less than when I paid for them, and but we're doing okay. And I could be wrong, but look, Ray Dalio, who's a hedge fund billionaire, and I heard him speak at conferences, and he said every asset class will correct every 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And I've been in multifamily 24 years. It corrected in 8, 9, and 10, and it corrected in 23, 24, and arguably 25. And I think that all the signs that I see now is that we're coming out of that cycle.
Right.
I could be wrong, but that's also consistent with the Ray Dalio theory of 10 to 15 years. There's going to be a correction.
It was time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've on our side from the GC side now, we stay busy pretty much year round, but we are starting to see more of an uptick.
Yeah.
On calls out for either DDs or certain inspections. We're starting to get more calls of
Recent acquisitions. Yep.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, because you guys know that like the vast majority of a heavy lift on a value add is going to be done the first year after the acquisition.
Yeah.
It's not that they'll never do renovations afterwards, but like to do renovation, you need money.
Yes.
And so where do you get money? You get money from equity or from the lender. And so the best time to do your renovation is you close the deal and you raise money or you get money from the lender and you do all your renovation in the first year.
Yep.
After that, most operators that are syndication groups, they could do minor renovations and stuff like that, or maybe they do a refi and then they get more equity.
Right.
But unless you're dealing with like a family office, which maybe you guys do, and you have these wealthy families that aren't necessarily syndicating deals and raising money, they could do they have spend whenever they want.
Yeah, whenever. Yeah.
But like my model that I do and that I teach is like we're doing our renovations up front,
Right.
or when we have a capital event.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. For
Yeah.
sure. Brad, so fun, dude. So back to your $1 million tax, high tax liability there.
Yeah.
Dude, so in 2017, I want to say it's 2016 or 17, I was still knocking on doors, right? I was trying to get my name out there, and I ran across your program, your event online. One night I was looking for, how can I get exposed to more people? How can I learn more about multifamily or get my name out there? And I ran across your event, and you were having it right here, right down the street.
The Addison
at
Conference
Addison
Center.
Conference Center.
Yeah, they're closed now.
Yeah, in 2017, I was like, you know what? I think I could barely. I don't remember how much the ticket was, but I bought the VIP
Probably
ticket.
like $300.
It was, yes, and I at the time I was like, man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But screw it, I'm all in on me, and I'm all in on building my company, all that stuff. So I bought the ticket, and I bought the VIP ticket so I could sit closer to
That's
the
amazing.
stage. And
Was it
man,
worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was, so you've impacted me in a way you probably didn't know, right? But I mean, I went to that event and I got exposed to what I was looking for. And through there, I've met people who now I do business with. And there's people there that, I met then that I had no idea that I'd be doing business with years later. And it was awesome.
great.
I learned a lot
Yeah, I love
at
that.
your event. But you talked about, I remember seeing you on stage and you said, hey, I had a goal of wanting to pay the IRS, $1 million, and then I met my CPA, and I was like, Brad, there's a different way to do it, right?
Yeah.
But
You don't have to pay it.
Well,
yeah, you don't have to pay it.
Well, the story is I had a mentor, and he said, Brad, there's 4 types of millionaires. And he said the first type is when your net worth, which is your assets minus your liabilities on paper, is over $1 million. That technically qualifies somebody to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
He goes, the next level is when you have $1 million in liquid, like $1 million of liquid assets that you could deploy.
Right.
That's big difference than having illiquid assets,
Right.
including your house or your car or your furniture, right? So it's net worth of $1 million liquid. I hit that one. I hit the second one. The third one was you make $1 million a year. Well, then I hit that one. And then he said the fourth is you pay $1 million in tax. So like I had this ingrained in my head for so many years that like I hit the first 3 and I'm finally going to hit $1 million in tax. And then Tom Wheelwright was like, I don't ever want to hear you say that.
Wait a minute.
So I haven't paid federal tax in 6 out of the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Legally, I might add.
Legally. All through real
Well, of
estate.
course.
Yeah, of course, dude.
Yeah,
And that's the
yeah.
beauty of it. I mean,
Yeah, and
you can legally do that.
Yeah.
well, what's just funny? Let me deviate a little bit here. I catch myself saying legally too.
Yeah.
Nick, you said legally.
Yeah, I said legally.
It's almost as if there's this narrative that if you don't pay tax, you're doing something wrong or you're taking advantage of a loophole.
Sure.
And it's like, and I used to believe that so much. And I think a lot of people out there believe that because, depending on who they listen to, like I'll never forget the 2016 debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton at the time. And Hillary was saying something like, and he won't release his tax returns.
Yep.
And he didn't pay any tax. And Trump said, that's because I'm smart.
Yep.
Like, and I have the clip.
Yep.
Like and I used to show it in 2016, 2017 at my conferences. And what, and I know a lot of people out there don't like Donald Trump and, whatever, but the tax code, and I learned this from my CPA, the tax code is a code that is written on how you can deduct things legally, right? And it's also a code for like, what does the government want to incentivize you to do?
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah,
like
yep.
when we had Biden, and if Kamala would have won, I know I'm so far away from the 2024 election, but if you think that far back, it was Kamala versus Trump. But if Kamala would have won, there would have been incentives to continue investing in clean energy, green initiatives, minority-owned businesses, and those types of things. But because Trump won, he believes in real estate, housing, oil, fossil fuels. So like all the credits are going away for buying an electric car.
Right.
And maybe in 2026, when's it? No, 2028, there'll be a change.
shift.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is our government uses the tax code to influence what we do with our money. And so when people figure out that like, these aren't like gray areas. These are
No, and they're not just there for certain people, right?
Right.
They're there for everybody.
exactly.
So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so I catch myself saying legally, but it's like, but that's because, we're concerned that maybe someone out there thinks we're doing something illegal.
Yep.
Right.
There's so much bad advice out there too,
Right,
with the age of information that we live in.
But the
And
average guy or gal making, what's the average salary now in corporate America? You got a good job, you make 150 a year, and you're paying, 50,000 a year in tax. They think, because they don't know any differently,
Right.
that people that don't pay any tax, they feel like, well, they're crooked, or they're doing something
cheating.
illegal,
Yep,
or they're
yep.
cheating, and this isn't fair. And then there's a segment of our politicians that tell them that,
Right. Yep.
because the politicians don't know any. Some of these politicians know, and a lot of Democrats know too, because they all own real estate. Like, how do you think Nancy Pelosi became worth
I know.
$100 million of
All of a
dollars?
sudden, yep.
Not on her salary, right?
W-2.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's why depreciation benefits and 1031 exchanges and all these things, they've never been taken away, under, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Trump first term, Biden, like they never took it away. Some are a little bit more friendly than others, but like both sides of the aisle politically, they
Too
own
much benefit for
businesses
it.
and
Yeah.
real estate.
They all benefit from
Yeah.
it. Yep. For sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, so people want to understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad, okay, so, dude, you're in shape. You're in great shape.
Well, not like you.
But you also just got done, I'm really curious about this, a 7-day keto fast, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you
yeah,
did?
yeah.
How long have you been into fitness? So obviously you know the ins and outs, multifamily, you've been through cycles, you've, successful in it, but you're also staying in shape. You're investing in your health, fitness. What is a 7-day ketone fast?
Well, could I tell you how I got into this?
Yes, how did you get into it?
So I've always, and to answer one of your questions, I've always had an interest in being healthy, having energy, call it, it wasn't all vanity, but part of it, there's a vanity component of wanting to look good.
Sure.
Who doesn't want to look good though?
Who doesn't want to
yeah.
look good?
Yeah.
But it was always more than that. It's like I love having a lot of energy. Like if I didn't have energy, I couldn't travel like I travel and go to. In February, I was in 21 out of town, 21 days out of 28 days, going to different cities speaking. So, when I was younger, it was probably more of a vanity component. Now it's more about like energy, vitality.
Right.
But there's still, that, like you said, Nick, everybody wants to look good,
Yeah.
right? But I'll be authentic. Like I've had moments of my life where I was really dedicated and committed to, an eating protocol, like a nutrition protocol, a workout protocol. I ran 4 marathons. I tried a lot of different things. I've had many different personal trainers over the years, did CrossFit. Like I just tried a lot of things, and certain things resonated with me, certain things didn't resonate with me. But one thing that I never was able to really do well was actually get like this leaner looking body. So like pretty much for 30 years, from the time like I was 20 to 50, I weighed 185 pounds, no matter what I did. Like, and they say like our body gets a thermostat where it kind of
it'll regulate itself. And
so
it works
I
best
was
at
stuck
certain-
at 185 pounds for 30 years, plus or minus, right? And so I'll never forget this, man. And if I'm taking too long on the story, let me tell me. But I'll never forget. So I'm at this event, a mastermind, and I'm sitting there, and a guy invites me to breakfast. So I have my egg white omelet, steel cut oatmeal, And I'm looking at what he's eating, and he's got 2 sunny side up eggs, sliced avocado, and 2 strips of bacon. And he looks at me and he goes, "Why are you eating that?" And I'm like, "Well, it's healthy. Like, everybody knows this is healthy." And I said, "I have a question for you. Why are you eating that? That's a heart attack on a plate."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well,
No
what if
fat
he goes,
and
well, what
fat,
if I
yeah.
told you that what I'm eating is healthier than what you're eating?" And I said, "I'd call you effing crazy."
Yeah.
You know. Well, then I find out the guy has a PhD in human nutrition, not a medical doctor. Medical doctors get very little training on nutrition.
Yes.
But they dispense information as if they know everything, right? Or one of my pet peeves to this day is when someone says, "Well, my doctor told me to eat, more fiber," and then they're buying like Special K,
Yeah, I have my
which is
issue-
like
I have my issues with
completely
that too.
processed crap,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Well, they're treating a symptom,
Like, if
right?
you're going to
And-
eat fiber, eat asparagus
Mm-hmm.
or broccoli, or don't eat or spinach,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so don't get me started on this, because I know more about apartments than I do about nutrition. But this is a side hobby of mine, right? Because so long story short, I started learning under this guy.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, Brad, next week he has a community of people that he coaches on nutrition." And he goes, "Look, you're my friend. You're in this mastermind with me." He goes, "I got a bunch of people that are paying to be on this 22-day challenge, and I'm going to lead them through a keto, low carb, low sugar diet." And he goes, "I'd like for you to join for free." And I got scared, because I'm thinking, I'm going to die if I eat this way. And then I thought,
If I eat the egg
you know what?
yolks.
I thought, if people can survive, remember the McDonald's Supersize Me challenge?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, people survived that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. For 22 days, I could do anything. Well, it's no alcohol, of course, but it's also like, if you think of just the 3 macros, fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, carbohydrates could also be referred to as sugar, okay? So it's kind of, for 22 days, it was sort of a high fat, medium protein, extremely low carbohydrate diet.
Yeah.
So the only carbs for 22 days were vegetables, and not like potatoes and sweet potatoes, like vegetables like broccoli, spinach,
Greens,
asparagus, greens.
Probably under 20.
And
20
then there
grams
was
of carbs per day.
there was basically there's meat, and he was endorsing like grass-fed and organic beef and meats and salmons and wild-caught salmon and shellfish and chicken, but instead of like, it wasn't like boneless grilled chicken. It's like you could have the chicken thigh with the skin, and I'm like, oh my God, this is good. So I'm eating a lot of meats and vegetables.
Yeah.
And after 22 days, I no longer believe that I can't lose weight.
Yeah.
And I lost like 16 pounds. Right. And then I kept going. And so the long story short, and this was happening during COVID.
And you felt good.
I
You
felt
felt
amazing. So
energy.
this is happening during COVID, where I was living in Dallas at the time, but restaurants were still open, but there was limitations on what we could do and stuff.
Yeah.
So during COVID, there was a Whole Foods across the street. I went to the Whole Foods every couple of days. I bought my own food. I prepared my own food because I was home all day.
Right.
I went for walks every single day, and I got into yoga.
Yeah.
Okay. And I got into yoga because there was some,
yoga is one of the hardest workouts that I've ever done.
and there were some gyms that made you wear a mask, and I'm like, I can't wear a mask when I'm going to the gym. So I was kind of like, F that. So I started doing yoga at home. I would do a walk every day on the Katy Trail, and I prepared my own food. So I stuck with this plan literally for 92 days.
Yeah.
And I lost 36 pounds.
Jeez.
And since then, from 2020 until about 2023, I had only gained like 4 or 5 pounds back.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 years, I've actually gained probably another 10 back. which is unfortunate because I look back and at that time and say I was in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
And I got rid of all my old clothes and bought all new clothes. And then just the other day, I'm going through my closet again and I'm like, I can't fit in any of my clothes again. So coming, like, I know I have an event here this weekend and I'm like, man, I have a custom made suit that I really want to wear for this event. And so I did a 7-day, I called my friend Guillermo and I said, Guillermo, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm trying everything and I can't lose a pound. And just listen to what I said. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do and I'm trying everything. And he goes, Brad,
Programming.
he goes, do my 7-day keto challenge. He sent it to me in a PDF. He goes, it's just like 22 days, but it's the same as the 22, but it's more extreme because we do intermittent fasting in between. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. Well, I did it almost nearly perfectly. I was down 6 pounds. I got my body composition before and after. Most of what I lost was fat. I lost a little bit of muscle and a little bit of water weight. And, but 50% of 3 out of the 6 pounds I lost was fat.
Yeah.
And the other 3 was 2 pounds was water weight and 1 pound was muscle.
Right.
So I would say that's a success. I haven't felt this. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I haven't felt this good in a long time.
Yeah. So you're intermittent fasting and then high fat, medium protein on this one.
Yeah.
And same thing.
Yeah.
very
So
low
I'm
carbs.
gonna, and I just had my blood work done too because I want to make sure that, and I don't want to get down this topic, but look, I don't mind. I was going to say I don't want to be controversial, but I do because there's also a controversy around money and work and W-2 and quitting your job and real estate. And a lot of people think it's really risky to, do real estate. And
Sure.
You should just have a job. Well, equally as controversial, but I want to be careful because I know far less about the topic of nutrition.
Sure.
Right? Because I'm not a nutritionist, that I have nutrition coaches and guides.
Right.
But there's a lot of misinformation around cholesterol and blood
Yes.
chemistry.
Yep.
And I remember a doctor 20 years ago, before I even adopted, I had 5 years where I barely ate red meat.
Right.
And I still had high cholesterol. When I was 38 years old, I was a pescatarian for 5 years. And they wanted to put me on statins. And I'm thinking, I don't eat egg yolks. All I eat is egg whites. I have grilled chicken breasts, no skin. I don't eat red meat. And my cholesterol was still high. It's higher now because of, partially because of my diet. But I still had high cholesterol when I was 38. And they wanted to put me on drugs. And this is what they do. And I'm so glad I didn't do it. And even in 2020, when I lost 30 some pounds, I went and got my blood work done at a famous clinic here in Dallas called the Cooper Clinic. And it's like an
Cooper
executive
Institute.
clinic for rich people, right? And I paid $5,000 for a day, and they do all these tests, and they scan your heart for deposits, and they do your blood work and all this stuff. And they came back and they were like, Brad, your cholesterol's through the roof. You need more fiber in your diet. So they sit me down with this nutritionist at the Cooper Clinic, and she's telling me to eat Raisin Bran for breakfast. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Like, this is the most processed, like I couldn't believe this. And then when they did my CT scan, when they looked for calcium buildup in your heart, he goes, Brad, this is amazing. You have 0 calcium buildup. And he goes, and that's the only reason I don't want to put you on medication, because other than that, like, your cholesterol is higher than it should be.
Right.
But then, like, my human nutritionist friend Guillermo said, Brad, your cholesterol wasn't the problem. Like he's more trained in looking at that kind of stuff, or at least I believe and hope he is, because that's the protocol I'm on. And maybe I'm going to die early. I don't know. But the point is like you really want to make sure that you're not just following like the conventional guidelines. And then I learned things like, and again, controversial possibly, but a lot of the guidelines that the medical establishment has were created like I think I learned that like Harry Truman had a heart attack, and then they looked at his blood work and he had high cholesterol. So then they started creating guidelines around that. And then one thing led to another, and then the influence of big pharma selling medications and stuff.
And it never changed because there's so much money involved
Right.
in it. Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I would just say this: just like we're all responsible for our investing, the investments we make, where we allocate our money, we're also responsible for our health.
Yes.
And there's a lot of different philosophies out there. And I'll also say this: we won't know possibly until it's too late. Because we're experimenting in some ways on our body. But I would say, look, they just flipped the food pyramid.
Yes, they did.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So for years we were taught that all the stuff at the top of the food pyramid you should eat sparingly, and now it's flipped.
Yeah.
No, that's
Right?
awesome. So similar. I love fitness. I've always been involved in fitness, and I like trying. I've tried the keto diet, and I try these not just because they're a fad, but I want to see what they actually do to my body. I want to feel energized. So I've tried the keto diet. I've tried carnivore diet, and people. Well, what about your cholesterol? What about all that? I felt great, but it wasn't for me at the end of the day. I function a little better with higher carbs in my diet, but ultimately I'm trying them for myself, and I'm assessing, and I want to see what it does to my body. And I love experimenting with that. But
And measure too. You measure not only how you feel, right, but even when I did the 7-day thing, I have a $300 in-body. It's a bioimpedance or impedance. I'm probably not even using the right language, but it's like a bioimpedance scale, right? But the gym I go to has a $5,000 version of an in-body scale, so it's much more rigorous.
Right.
So I went there on Tuesday, March 17th. I did my in-body rating. On Wednesday, I started my 7-day, and then a week later, after I was done with the 7-day, on day 8, I went back to the gym in Miami, and I did the in-body again. So I have a direct before and after, not only how I feel.
Right.
I lost 5 pounds on the scale, but I could see what happened with my visceral fat went way down, which is the fat around your organs, which is the dangerous fat. The visceral fat went way, way down.
Nice.
My body fat percentage went down. My fat loss went down. I did lose a little bit of muscle, but I lost more fat than muscle.
Right.
And then I had my blood work done, but I had my blood work done before I did the 7-day keto thing. And I just got the results. And of course, some of the numbers are high. And I'm going to keep an eye on it and make some minor modifications to my diet and I'll still do keto, but I'll do a little bit less saturated fat and more like avocado or salmon or whatever. And then I'm going to go back in 8 to 12 weeks and get some of those lipids done again before I panic,
Are you doing any cold plunging?
And I'm also under the guidance of a medical doctor, my nutritionist friend, a fitness trainer, and a functional doctor. So I got 4 people looking at my blood work, honestly.
You're covered.
Yeah. So cold plunging, look, again, I'm going to be controversial here. I think some things are just a fad. I think so many people love putting on Instagram story, here I am in the cold plunge, 42 degrees, 4 minutes, look at me. I mean, I've done a few cold plunges. Some of the research that I did recently says for men over 50, one of the leading causes of heart failure is going from a sauna to a cold plunge.
Right.
I mean, think about it. The sauna makes all of your blood vessels expand.
Right. Yep.
And the cold plunge makes them immediately contract.
Yep.
And I don't like it. Well, and I don't think anybody likes it, but I think
it's not too fun.
But I mean, I think people do it to master their mind, right?
Yeah.
From a mental toughness aspect, I think it can, right?
It's like if you could make that cold plunge be your little bitch, then what else?
Everything
could you do,
else
right?
is
So I could see the value there, but man, I don't know. I guess I'm not an expert. I don't, people swear by it and it helps with recovery and stuff, but I don't need to do it. I didn't have, look, man, when I grew up, we had, 5, me, my 2 brothers, and my dad, and you know, I have an older sister, but she was much older than me and left when I was still a boy, right?
Yeah.
So it was basically one lady and 4 men in the house. And so my dad built a bathroom in the basement.
Yeah.
And me, my 2 brothers, and my dad
Where'd you grow up, by the way?
in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so, and you know, and the basement's a cold place, you know.
In Pittsburgh, yeah, I can imagine.
So, you know, it took like 10 minutes for the water to get hot.
Yeah.
And so when I was in a hurry to go to work or go to school, I'm taking a shower in the basement, you know, and half the time it's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so like I didn't have a lot of hot water, you know, when I was young. You know?
Like,
My mom's up in the main bathroom, which we only had one main bathroom in the main house, and she had that bathroom all to herself, like the master bathroom.
Yep.
And me, my dad, and 2 brothers were all showering, like waiting one after the other. And sometimes I'm the last one to take a shower, and so if
hot water's gone.
the hot water's gone, you got to wait for the hot water tank to refill, Brad. And I'm like, I don't have time. I got to go to school. Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm taking cold showers half of my childhood. So I'm like, you know, the heck with cold plunging.
Yep. We've done it enough. Yeah.
I tried it for a little bit. It's rough. But
Yeah.
same. And I read a couple things where, you know, if you do it after your workout, it actually mitigates your recovery a little bit.
Yeah.
Muscles atrophy a little bit, but yeah, I
Well-
stopped. But
Well, somebody that I look up to in that domain is Jesse Itzler.
okay.
Yeah.
And Jesse has been at my events, and we have an acquaintanceship, you know, and I've been to his house. I was in one of his masterminds, and I went to his house. And Jesse, you know, he would bring in like certified Wim Hof breathing instructors and cold
Yeah.
plunge experts.
That is something that
I do like the breath
I
work.
would do the
Yeah.
Wim Hof method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
sure.
taught me that to get the benefit from cold plunging, you need to do 11 minutes, at least 11 minutes a week.
Okay, gotcha.
So like you don't have to do it every day, but like so if you do it 4 times a week at 3 minutes, or
Yeah.
6 times a week at 2 minutes, because that's the benefit, like in terms of like muscle recovery and all that type of stuff. But that's what I learned from them, and I don't know if it's accurate, but I just remember learning that.
Brad, Jesse, go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say my fitness plan is pretty generous. Every pound of muscle I gain, I just Venmo it to Ruben. He
There
just
you
uses
go.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
Just take it.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
looking at you guys.
Yep, exactly. It's by choice that I say this
Yeah.
this way.
Brad,
Could you send me some?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a list. Don't worry.
I went to an event in Miami. It's been years, but Jesse Itzler spoke at that event, and his story is amazing. Just from where he started, and I think he started selling airplanes or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're friends with some of these guys, but Brad, is there, there's people out there that think, man, these guys must just be completely different human beings, right? I mean, it's similar to you. I mean, are they normal guys, down to earth guys? I mean, what are they like?
Well,
These
yes and no.
uber successful people.
Yeah, so I would just say yes and no. What makes them not normal is that, like, you take a guy like Jesse, you know, he's probably failed so many times trying different things.
Right.
But he's resilient, he's persistent. Like when you listen to his story, like he started a private jet company before he didn't own any jets.
Yeah, like out of the blue, dude, and
Like,
just
like he
made it
like
work.
he was a white rapper, you know, and he wanted to access rich people, and he couldn't afford the ticket to these conferences. Just like you said, you could barely scrape $300 together.
Yep.
So I remember Jesse telling me, or he says it on stage, like, I don't want to be, it's probably not accurate how I'm going to represent it, but basically he couldn't afford to go to an event. It's all family offices and high net worth people. And he noticed it, so he went to the hotel and he's hanging out in the lobby. And he noticed on the first day that, like, everybody went to the coffee shop and bought coffee and donuts.
Yeah.
So the next day, Jesse went in and he bought all the donuts. And then there was a line of people that wanted donuts. And Jesse's like, hey, over here, I got
all of them.
like all the donuts. And so the guys would come over and he'd just give them a donut. And then he would talk to them. And like, so this is just, and like, would an average person do that? No. Because an average person's going to be like, hey, what are people going to think? Is this right? Like, You know, am I allowed to do that? Am I somehow breaking the rules? But Jesse didn't think that way. He's like, hey, how, he used to say, like, if you don't have a seat at the table, serve the water, like get in the room, and so he found a way to get in a room around people. And then, and again, I remember part of his story. Again, I'm probably not representing accurately, but, he talked about how he did his first jet charter and he didn't have a jet, but he got a client. And then it's kind of like he came to the client and said, hey, you want to fly on my jet? And then he convinced him to do it. And then he found a jet company that said, like, hey, I have this celebrity and I need a jet. And then he put the transaction together. And next thing you know, he's flying with celebrities on a private jet.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, he's got the videographer and they're taking pictures and he's got social proof now that he's like, flying with celebrities. And then he ends up selling this marquee jet to Warren Buffett. And that they became absorbed by NetJets. So what makes him different is his willingness to, I don't want to say not follow the rules, but like be creative and do what it takes.
Yeah, that freedom of failure, right?
And most people wouldn't do that. Now, as far as down to earth, I've never met anyone more down to earth than Jesse. Yeah. Like when he came to my event, he's a billionaire with a B, and his wife is a billionaire on her own. So like combined. And I don't know if Jesse is a billionaire on his own, but he's close. But with him, between him and his wife, they're billionaires. Yeah. And I was never a billionaire, and I had a $7 million private jet. And Jesse shows up to my event, and he's got, shorts, a baggy hoodie, a goofy-looking hat, and a dirty knapsack that looks like it was in the mud. And then I'm like, hey, like, how was your flight? And I'm thinking like he's on a private jet. He's like, man, I was in a middle seat on Southwest. Like I bought my ticket at the last minute. I just got here, man. I'm just so happy to see you, Brad. And he's giving me a hug, and I'm just like, you fly Southwest Airlines? He's like, yeah, man, like I could buy a ticket last minute, for $147, and I'm just thinking, and then I've been to his house, and he's got several houses, but when I was in his mastermind, there were 14 of us in his top level mastermind, and it's a house outside of New York and Connecticut up on a hill, and they do like this hill challenge there where they bring people there. But I'll never forget this. He had a 3-day mastermind, and we stay in his house. Yeah. Now, I've been in the mastermind with Tony Robbins where I go to his house between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., but I stay at the hotel down the street.
Gotcha.
And at Jesse's mastermind, I slept in his house. Yeah. And he's got 11 people catering to 14 clients. And he's got his chef, his breathwork specialist, his yoga instructor, his fitness instructor, his business advisor. And for 3 days, it was Jesse and 11 of his team members and 14 clients. And I slept in his house. Yeah. And it was a big house, but it wasn't like a museum. Yeah. Like I've been to Steve Wynn's house on Billionaires Row in Palm Beach. And it's not lived in. It looks like you're in a museum. Like it's him and his wife. There's no kids, no dogs, no people. There's stanchions everywhere. Yeah. Like I got an opportunity when I was with Tony Robbins to go into Steve Wynn's house, and I'm thinking, this place looks like a museum.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah. Jesse's house. They got 5 kids. They have dogs. It was a big house, but there's. The leather's frayed, the stools are chewed. I'm thinking, this is a lived-in house. Yep. And he's the most down-to-earth guy like I ever met. Like, and then I told him, I said, and the level of access was crazy. Like, I was paying twice as much to be in Tony Robbins' mastermind as Jesse Itzler, but I had so much access to Jesse. Yeah. And truthfully, and I'm not putting Tony Robbins down, so little personal access to Tony.
Gotcha.
Like when we would go to Tony's house for his mastermind, we were able to, we'd stay in a nice hotel down the street, go to his house. We could swim in his pool and hang out, and then we had content, but we had time where we could, but like most of the house was off limits.
Yeah.
There are security guards everywhere, and you didn't really have one-on-one time with Tony. Like Tony was in his private quarters and had come out and then would sit around and do content and do Q&A.
Yeah.
But when he was done, he would disappear.
Right.
And we could use some of his facilities. When we were at Jesse's house, it's like, I remember waking up, going down. I was up early, I'm walking around the house. There's no security.
Did you go in his fridge?
I go, I kind of, because I'm like wanting to make coffee, and then I go in the basement, and I go in the sauna, and he's got the compression boot, and it was the first time I those compression boots, and I wore those, and I never seen those before, and I'm like, calling my girlfriend, and I'm like, man, it's. No one's awake, and I'm in Jesse's house, and I've got the compression boots on. This is the coolest thing in the world, and there's like no security or nothing. And I'm like, Jesse, you need to charge more, not for me, but for everybody else. Like you could charge double based on the level of access. And then he'd just wake up, and he'd come downstairs, and his hair's all messed up, and he'd be like, hey, man, how'd you sleep? And we're like making coffee in the morning, like crazy.
The compression boots alone are few $100s worth of value, right? Should add to it.
Jesse's and Tony is too, by the way. But like Tony's brand, is bigger than Jesse's.
Yep.
He's created the brand, and he's almost and I think it's intentional. He's untouchable. He makes himself not have any access,
right?
And as a result, people will pay a premium to be even in the same room as him.
Yeah.
There's something to that as well.
Yeah,
I think,
and that's a lot of branding and positioning and marketing, which I've learned a little bit about as well, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Brad, because obviously being around, those ultra successful people, and you've had tons of success in your tenure in real estate as well. All of those people, one of my favorite things to hear from them was like some of their favorite failures that taught them a huge lesson, right? For you, Brad, what was your getting into the industry, what was your favorite failure that you went through that taught you something that you still learn from today?
I don't have any favorite failures. They all
sucked.
They all sucked. Yeah. Look. Let me marinate on that. Because I could think of like some business. I could think of even now things that I struggle with. I could think of things like personally.
We can come back.
Let me just say this. And I understand why, because I've done my own share of like personal development and reflection and all that. Like ever since I was a little boy, we weren't dirt poor, but I didn't come from a family of money. Mm-hmm. So like it was impressed upon me how, that the success was like one of our core values. Like you have to work hard, you got to stay out of trouble. Like when I would have a good report card, I would get rewarded. Yeah. If I didn't get all A's, I would be not rewarded. Like seriously. Mm-hmm. And so it was ingrained upon me from the time I was little how important success and achievement was, whether it's getting straight A's or graduating at the top of my class or getting into a good school. And so that became like my driving force. Mm-hmm. And when I got into real estate, I set a goal of $10,000 a month from my passive income before I quit my job, and I did that in 3 years. Yeah. And then it was 20, and then it was 50, and my first net worth goal was $1 million, and then it was 5 million, and then it was 10 million. And what I realized that no matter what I achieved, it wasn't enough. Right. Mm-hmm. And my mom died 11 years ago, and so what I realized I was no longer doing this to please my parents. I was doing it to please my own need to accept myself and value myself and maybe even love myself, right? Like because it was like, and then it became like, the things, and then even we talked about fitness, and there's that vanity component of looking good, and so like I'm being brutally authentic here. Yeah. Looking back, almost everything I did up until about 2 or 3 years ago was to fulfill a need that I'm enough, like that I'm worthy of love, and I'm worthy to be a good human, and like even in a sense, like I was always into helping people, and I shared that, but even like I would measure like, well, how many people came to my events? Like if 400 people came, that's better than if 200 people come.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm helping more people, but also it was like I'm keeping score, you know, and it was progress. And it's like, oh, if I have 400 this time and I have 300 the next time, that's a failure. You know, I have to keep growing, and it always has to be bigger and better. And even like buying the jet and the luxury clothes and the Ferrari, there was always this component of like, just truthfully, a boy that wants to be loved and accepted for who he is, you know. But I learned that that love has to be earned.
Right.
And I went through some, you know, challenges personally, and you know, got a divorce and sold my jet, you know, and then at the same time, the multifamily went from being the darling asset class to the dog that nobody wants to be in, and you know, and I feel like I came back home again, like, you know, like, hey, you know, a lot of these things that I thought mattered don't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And being authentic again, like at times I still struggle with that because I have a pattern of like valuing achievement.
Sure.
And, but at the same time, like, I think that's the biggest one, just in a nutshell, is like, you know, and the other thing, when somebody, my life was always on this upward trajectory.
Yeah.
And I never really had many challenges.
Right.
Like, yeah, I got fired or laid off and my mom passed away, but those weren't like insurmountable challenges. Right. Never spent a day in a hospital, never really been sick, never lost money, never had bankruptcy, never been sued, didn't have any haters. Now I've been sued, you know, lost money, you know, have haters, been written up in the media in a not so flattering way, got a divorce, you know, so I've been through a lot.
Right.
And, but what I realized is like, also, you know, going back to health, like if you're healthy, if you could see, if you could think clearly, if you could hear, if you got all your limbs, you know, if you could breathe without difficulty, I mean, we're blessed beyond belief.
Oh yeah.
And truthfully, like when everything was going so well for me for 30 years, when people were going through a hard time, I was probably not the most compassionate or empathetic person. And then, you know, the Tony Robbins theory is like, make your move, walk on fire, break the board, you know, burn the bridges, you know, say yes. So like if somebody was like, oh, I'm going through a divorce, I'd be like, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough shit.
You know, I lost my job. Great.
Yeah.
The door just opened for something better. You know, like I couldn't meet them where they were at in their pain.
Yeah.
And now I could.
Yeah.
Like I could. Like I'm much more compassionate and empathetic. And even though I still believe that like, hey, well, this could end up being something positive, it's like I'm able to meet people where they're at, feel people's pain, you know, understand that like, you know, because I mean, when I went, you know, all the things that I just shared, when a lot of these were happening at the same time, and it was the first time I really dealt with like adversity, and a lot of things were happening at the same time to me. Right. And I started eating too much. I started drinking too much. I felt I was probably functionally depressed for about a year or so. Like meaning like when I could show up when I needed to show up, but in my heart and my soul, I just felt I wasn't passionate or excited about anything. And I felt like probably in 2023 and part of 2024, I kind of felt dead inside. Yeah. You know, but I never quit. Right.
Which is huge. That right there, right? The never quit.
And I think a lot of people could have quit and
find a way to, you know, one step at a time and climb out of it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. To be honest, I appreciate the authenticity.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's big, right? That's huge because I think, and look, maybe it's a male thing, right? Where
big time.
It's, you know, maybe it's not okay to be vulnerable. It's not okay to have certain feelings, but I think there's something there when you can go and internalize some of that, some self-reflection, and understand that, you are worthy, and self-love. And I think it's huge. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, or can struggle with it. Right.
Yeah,
So,
and we're opening up a
thanks.
whole can of worms. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
have a second
Do you
conversation
have
one
like
of these days.
3 more hours?
Yeah.
We're already
Well,
like
look,
an hour and a half.
I- I've been on some healing retreats,
Yeah.
and one of the things I've learned is that like 9 out of 10 men have an addiction to something unhealthy.
Right.
It could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be porn, it could be
Right.
sex in an unhealthy way. And fortunately, I didn't have, much of that. But what I can tell you is just in the past 7 days, again, when I did this keto fast, my addiction is actually food.
Yeah.
I don't eat when I'm hungry. And it hit me again, like during these last 7 days. And I remember when I first did this for 22 days,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm hungry, but I'm not hungry. No, I'm not hungry. It's time for me to eat. Okay, you're not supposed to eat. You already had your dinner. And it was so hard for me, but I did it in 2020 when I went like 90 some days, right?
Yeah.
And I literally ate when the protocol told me to eat,
Right.
and I didn't deviate from it.
Yeah.
And if you do something long enough, you could create a new habit.
Yep.
But then after a while, I got back to my old habits of like I'll be authentic too. It's like how many times and I don't want to say you, but for me, like when I'm bored, I open the fridge. When I
dude,
open
same.
the fridge before I go to bed.
Yeah.
I see
I'll be
something
honest.
I shouldn't eat, and I want to eat it.
I think that's one of the reasons why I'm similar to you. If I start a diet protocol for whether I'm training for a show or whatever, dude, I don't deviate. I will stick to it. If that's what I'm supposed to do, that's what I will do. Not a gram more of protein, whatever it is. But it's kind of I realized, right, that yes, my unhealthy relationship with food is I can stick to it. When I'm off of it, I share that same struggle.
Yeah.
I will go back to those old habits where I'm constantly eating or overeating,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Or like if I'm feeling emotionally empty
Yes.
or
Yep.
unfulfilled or
Oh,
a
yeah.
little down, for some people it's alcohol, for
Yep.
some people it's cocaine, so I'm blessed that it's not that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been food.
For me, it's pastries, bro. Pastries.
Rube
Yeah.
loves a good cookie or
Yeah, let me just
Brad,
see what we're doing here.
Yeah, we're over an hour now, but dude, thanks for sharing some of your story with us. Thanks for being on the show. Truly appreciate it. We're excited for your event this weekend, Saturday. Just really quickly, what's the outlook for you? What are you feeling now for multifamily, in 2026? And we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so look, first I'll say I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I've been right in multifamily more than I've been wrong. Tony Robbins teaches a simple concept called pattern recognition.
Yep.
So because I've been doing this for 24 years, I've seen up markets and I've seen down markets and I've seen recovery markets.
Yep.
And so based on what happened, before, we're in a recovery.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. We have the Iran war going on now, and we have oil, and there's always wild cards. The pandemic was a wild card. Whether you believe it was a pandemic or a scamdemic, but it was a wild card, right?
Yeah.
So there could always be wild cards. But outside of any major wild card, we're in for a boom period right now.
Yeah.
Prices are down. The oversupply issue has kind of gone away in the Sun Belt. Housing is more expensive, so working class families are renting more and more than ever out of necessity, not by choice. And of course, it's all local, and you got to do your research. So I can't just say buy anywhere at any price. That would be stupid.
Yeah.
But you got to know your numbers. You got to know your markets. You got to have a strong team. And this is exactly what I teach. I'll be teaching it this weekend, and I've been teaching it all the time.
Yeah.
And so, but I think we're in for, I actually think we have a window of opportunity similar to where we were in 2012, where if I look back, I wish I would have bought more real estate in 2012. I was too cautious. I was too conservative.
Gotcha.
I'm like, I think it's a good time, but I'm not sure. And again, like, this is an educated guess based on the data that I see.
Right.
But you're asking me what I think, and I think it's time to have your foot on the gas. You got to have your pencil in your hand. You got to be underwriting deals and make offers. And if they're low ball offers, make them right now, because, you know, in a seller's market, I teach don't make a low ball offer. You're wasting your time. But in the buyer's market, which we're in right now, like, make the offer.
Make the offer. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we know. Brad, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, man.
Love being here.
Great episode, and yeah, see
Cool.
you on the next one.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'll see you this
Awesome.
weekend.